This is MTG Burgeoning, and in this video we will showcase the contents of Red Color Support Pack number 5 of our Jumpstart Commander Cube. If you haven't been following along or are new to the channel, look in the description of this video for links to the primer video for this series, its playlist, as well as a list of the cards featured in this video. As previously showcased during the primer video for this series, these are the types of cards you can expect to see in every color support pack. Now, with the prologue coming to an end, let's start spotlighting some red support cards, beginning with some basic lands. We have 3 basic mountains, Shisha, and on the back end of that, we have 3 basic mountains of the snow-covered variety. That's 6 total basic mountains, 3 regular, and 3 that get a little bit frosty. If you've been following along with this series, you know what card number 7 is for these color support packs, and that is our Thriving land, and that is Thriving Bluff. It enters the battlefield tapped, and when it does, we choose a color other than red. We can tap this land for 1 red mana or 1 mana of the chosen color and add that to our mana pool. Our second consecutive non-basic land is also the utility land for this pack, and that is Silkenzon, Crucible of Defiance. This legendary land comes into play untapped. Thank you, Wizards. We can tap to add 1 red mana to our mana pool, or we can channel this card by paying 3 generic mana and 1 red mana and discarding it, and if we do, we create 2 1/1 colorless spirit creature tokens. Note that although they're spirit creatures, they do not fly. How is that possible? You got me. And they, of course, these spirit creature tokens, because they're coming from a red, well, not a red land, but a land that taps for red mana in a red support pack, they're going to have haste until end of turn. This ability, the channel ability, costs 1 generic mana less to activate for each legendary creature we control. So at its best, we can pay just 1 red mana, discard this card to create 2 hasty 1/1 colorless spirits. Note that the channel ability cannot be countered with counter magic. It is not a spell, it is an ability. All right, next up is going to be our MDFC, which is our modal double face card. That's spell on the front and land on the back. And here in red color support pack number 5, that card is Spikefield Hazard. An instant for 1 red mana, it deals 1 damage to any target, and if a permanent dealt damage this way would die this turn, we exile it instead. Let's not overlook how valuable that can be, particularly in any builds that are trying to abuse any graveyard synergies. Any X1 that keeps going back and forth from play to the graveyard and back, well, maybe it would be better to just tap a red mana, cast Spikefield Hazard, deal a point of damage to that X1, and instead of it going to the graveyard from dying, it's exiled instead. If that doesn't tickle our fancy, then we can just flip this bad boy over and play Spikefield Cave instead. It's a land that enters the battlefield tapped, and we can tap it to add 1 red mana to our mana pool. Our next slot is our Planeswalker slot in this support pack and every other color support pack. And here in red color support pack number 5, it is Chandra, Fire Artisan. Loyalty, we have 4 loyalty counters for the investment of 2 and 2 red mana, which is a fantastic return on our mana investing bucks. 1 mana per 1 loyalty counter. And Chandra has a static ability that reads whenever 1 or more loyalty counters are removed from Chandra Fire Artisan, that she deals that much damage to target opponent or planeswalker. So whenever we're taking any counters off of Chandra, in addition to whatever ability she's going to grant us for doing that, we get to sling around some direct damage like nobody's business. We can +1 this version of Chandra to exile the top card of our library, and we may play it this turn. Note how that is worded. If we end up exiling a land through this ability and we haven't dropped it onto the battlefield yet, we can play that land for our land for turn. And if we can have Chandra on our side of the battlefield long enough in order to take 7 loyalty counters off of her for her Big Bang ability, we can do that, and then we exile the top 7 cards of our library, and we may play those cards this turn. Note that when we remove those 7 loyalty counters, that means that Chandra's going to deal 7 damage to some target opponent or Planeswalker, because we are removing one or more loyalty counters from this version of Chandra. That's her static ability. So we're going to get some impulse draw off the top of our library by +1ing her, and if we get to 7 or more loyalty counters, we can get 7 of those cards exiled instead, and then we're going to sling 7 or more points of direct damage to an opponent or a Planeswalker an opponent controls. All right, next up is our creature modifier. It's either going to be an aura or an equipment. And here in red color support pack number 5, it's going to be an equipment. And that equipment is Hexplate Wallbreaker. For 3 and 2 red mana, that's the mana value of this equipment. And the equip cost is 3 and 1 red mana. Pricey equipment, pricey equip cost. Hopefully we're getting a little bit more bang for our mana investing bucks. This equipment has the Formyriden mechanic, which means that when this equipment ETBs, we create a 2/2 red rebel creature token, then attach Hexplate Wallbreaker to it. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, so for the somewhat meager mana investment of 5, we're going to have a 4/4 creature, the 2/2 rebel, and the +2/+2 power and toughness boost that the Hexplate Wallbreaker will give it. Hopefully we're not done, and no, we are not. Whenever equipped creature attacks, if it's the first combat phase of that turn, we untap each attacking creature. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. Suddenly, having Hexplate Wallbreaker on our side of the battlefield for 5 mana doesn't seem like it's that bad. And even if that rebel does get pinged or taken out of play and the Hexplate falls off of it, we can still equip it for 3 and a red mana, send that creature and a bunch of other creatures hopefully into combat, and then we get an additional combat phase. Each time we do that for the equip cost of 3 and 1 red mana, we make it that much closer to the end of the game, particularly if we have a build that's stressing winning with creatures in combat. Our next card is our Color Strength spell, and in red, we're talking about rummaging, we're talking about impulse draw, and that is going to be Thrill of Possibility. An instant for 1 and 1 red mana. As an additional cost to cast the spell, we discard a card, and then we draw 2 cards. So we turn this card and an unwanted card into 2 fresh cards off the top of our library. All right, now we're going to go to our spot removal spells. We have 2 of them here, just like in every color support pack. The first one is Burning Hands. An instant for 1 and 1 red mana. This deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If that permanent is green, Burning Hands deals 6 damage instead. We have a very high likelihood that there will be a green permanent on our opponent's sides of the battlefield that's either a creature or a planeswalker. Paying 1 and 1 red mana at instant speed to deal 6 damage to it, well, that's a rate of return that we want to experience every day of the week and twice during Friday Night Magic. Our second spot removal spell is actually removing many spots, and that, potentially, is Comet Storm. X and 2 red mana, we choose target creature or player, then choose another target creature or player for each time Comet Storm was kicked. The errata on this card, I'm pretty certain, means X targets, so it doesn't have to be creature or planeswalker. It doesn't have to be creature or player. We can factor planeswalkers in there as well. So what we're really doing is choosing X targets, where X is equal to the number of times we kicked Comet Storm through its multi-kicker ability. And the multi-kicker being 1 generic mana means that we may pay an additional 1 generic mana any number of times as we cast a spell, and if we do, Comet Storm will deal X damage to each of them. All right, so let's break this down this way. We're going to spend 6 on X, and then the 2 red for a total of 8 mana, and then we're going to pay the multi-kicker cost twice. That's going to be a total of 10 mana, 6 for X, 2 red, and then 2 multi-kicker activations, 2 generic mana there. So what we're going to do is we're going to sling 6 points of damage at the original target, 6 points of damage for the multi-kicker for the first time we kicked it, and then 6 points of damage for the multi-kicker the second time we kicked it. All in all, we spent a total of 10 mana and doled out 18 points of direct damage. Comet Storm, under the right circumstances, could be considered a win condition in this color support pack. Now we're going to shift away from our spot removal spells to our mass removal spells, and the first one of 2 is Descent of the Dragons. This is a sorcery for 4 and 2 red mana. We destroy any number of target creatures, and for each creature destroyed this way, its controller creates a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. So we just have to be pretty selective, of course. With this type of removal spell, it's going to be so dependent on the board state and the state of the game. Or maybe we just have a bunch of 1/1 tokens that we want to make even bigger and slap on some evasion. So we'll then just pick our creatures, destroy them, and turn them into 4/4 flying dragons. Either way, the versatility of Descent of the Dragons allow us to remove some very powerful threats from our opponent's sides of the battlefield and give them a much lesser threat in the form of 4/4 dragons that fly. Our last spot removal spell for this color support pack red variety number 5 is Blasphemous Act. This sorcery has a mana value of 8 and 1 red mana, but we will never pay that mana cost, because this spell costs 1 generic mana less to cast for each creature on the battlefield, and when we cast it, it will deal 13 damage to each creature. This is Commander, so it's very likely that we will only pay 1 red mana to cast this spell, and when we do, 13 damage is going to be doled out to every single creature on the battlefield. Our next card is our Hate or Defense card, and here in red color support pack number 5, that comes in the form of Ashling the Pilgrim, a 1/1 legendary elemental shaman for 1 and 1 red mana. We can pay 1 and 1 red mana to put a +1/+1 counter on Ashling, and if this is the 3rd time this ability has resolved this turn, we remove all +1/+1 counters from this version of Ashling, and it deals that much damage to each creature and each player. Note that this ability is symmetrical, so our creatures will be dealt damage, and we will be dealt damage as well. However, under the right circumstances, if our life total is well north of our opponents, then jamming +1/+1 counters onto Ashling 1 or 2 at a time, making it bigger and bigger and bigger, could be very beneficial and looked at as a potential win condition, particularly if we pay 6 total mana during a turn to put 3 more +1/+1 counters on it, sacrificing Ashling, and then having it deal that much damage to each creature and each player, which is the number of +1/+1 counters on Ashling. If our opponent's life totals are close enough to 0 and ours is far north of that, then we can win the game by sacrificing Ashling. Our next card is our Resource Advancement card, and here we're looking for cards in hand, we're looking for mana acceleration, we're looking for ways in which to advance our side of the battlefield. And in this support pack, that comes in the form of Gadrick the Crown Scourge, a 5/4 legendary dragon with flying for just 2 and 1 red mana. Gadrick cannot attack unless we control 4 or more artifacts. That's fine, because maybe we don't want to be tempted by sending this creature into combat for fear of losing it to some kind of blocking shenanigans. And why do we want to do that? Well, because at the beginning of our end step, we create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. Under the right set of circumstances, and if the stars align properly, we should be able to exploit Gadrick's ability to create these treasure tokens in our favor, particularly if we have this aligned with an aristocrat themed commander pack, or something that allows us to sacrifice our non-token creatures, getting them to the graveyard, and then hopefully potentially bringing them back. The more that we do that, the more treasure we make, the more that our mana accelerates, and that should bring us closer and closer to claiming victory. And once we get at least a total of 4 artifacts, they don't necessarily have to be the treasures created by Gadrick. They can just be any combination of artifacts on our side of the battlefield. We can send our 5/4 flyer into combat, and we should be able to do so comfortably, knowing that with the evasion, it will fly right over the heads of all of our ground-walking creatures. All of the ground-walking creatures on our opponent's sides of the battlefield. Our next card is our Combat Enhancement card, and that's going to come in the form of Captive Flame, an enchantment for 2/1 red mana that allows us to pay a red mana to have target creature get +1/+0 until end of turn. Note the wording on this text. Target creature gets +1/+0. It does not have to be target creature we control, and it does not have to be target creature an opponent controls. We could, out of nowhere, jam a ton of red mana into Captive Flame, giving one of our opponent's unblocked creature +X/+0 till end of turn, where X is the amount of red mana we spent, and that unblocked creature suddenly becomes even more massive and potentially knocks that opponent out of the game. Even if we don't do that, we can still use that as a global way in which to give creatures we control, our creatures of course, fire breathing. And lastly comes the iconic creature type of this support pack. And of course, if it's red, we're talking dragons. We don't know which dragon it is yet, but we are about to showcase it. And that comes in the form of Moonveil Dragon, a 5/5 flying dragon for 3 and 3 red mana. We can pay a red mana to have each creature we control get +1/+0 until end of turn. That is similar to Captive Flame, except for every 1 mana we tap with Moonveil Dragon, every creature on our side of the battlefield gets +1/+0. If we have 4 creatures, each one of them gets +1/+0 for each 1 red mana we spend, which is a lot more discounted than Captive Flame, which means that we would have to tap 4 mana for each one of those creatures to get +4/+0. Having Captive Flame on our side of the battlefield is a good way in which to shore up battlefield management, where Moonveil Dragon can come down and say, all right, now it's time to win the game. With back-to-back fire-breathing cards in place, that will bring a close to Red Color Support Pack number 5. The contents have been showcased, and now it's up to the MTGBC to let me know their thoughts in the comment section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, a channel for all things Magic.